Jefferson County 911.
Yes, I am a teacher at Columbine High School. There is a student here with a gun.
In 1999, two armed teenagers opened fire at Columbine High School in Colorado, killing 13 people.
And the school is in a panic.
The rampage left a stain on America's consciousness, but also an important legacy. It inspired a forensic psychologist named Dewey Cornell to develop and test a threat assessment tool for schools. Today, that tool is widely used, especially in recent weeks. Since the school shooting in Florida last month, San Diego area schools and law enforcement have fielded at least 9 threats.
First assessment is it a transient threat or is it a serious threat?
Bob Mueller is head of student support services for the San Diego County Office of Education.
The level of proof we're looking for is 100% certainty. So based on the circumstances of the statement, based on the reactions of the people who heard it, based on my interview of the student, based on the student's history, when I look into this, I have absolutely no concern. Then we're going to call that transient. If I have any doubt at all, then I'm going to call it serious.
Ideally, says Mueller, it's a team making that call. He's working with area schools to ensure each has an administrator, school psychologist, counselor, and law enforcement officer trained in threat assessment. If they deem a threat serious, investigators would then look at whether the person has actively planned for an attack, has access to weapons, or has a history of mental illness or criminal behavior.
What hasn't been present is a tracking system, a way to keep track of individuals that remain concerns over time. And I think that's what we're beginning to work on now.
Mueller points to the Florida shooter who had raised red flags but was no longer attending school.
If a threat assessment process was done earlier, might be possible that law enforcement was still kind of keeping tabs on him. It might be possible that the behavioral health services in that community was providing support and monitoring. So those are opportunities that we want to create in San Diego.
This is near and dear to me because I prosecuted the last school shooting that happened in San Diego County.
Interim District Attorney Summer Steffen says the work to better track individuals who make threats against schools has already begun. The 2010 shooting at Kelly Elementary School that wounded 2 girls led the DA to assign a special prosecutor to school threats. Now, Steffen is working to encourage schools to involve her office in all threats, large and small, so that there's a central clearinghouse of information.
I wouldn't call it a database. It's that we're aware of all of the cases. It's about good communication and not having someone be looked at as a first-timer in terms of making threat when they're really somebody who we decided to go with more casual intervention the first time through working with the school, working with mental health.
For individuals who make threats serious enough to warrant a criminal charge, their information may be added to an actual database. The San Diego Law Enforcement Coordination Center allows all public safety agencies to access criminal intelligence. Steffen says this should not deter people from reporting something like a Lego gun. She says the goal is not to criminalize youth.
What we don't want is to have the community want to protect the kid by not saying anything, because then we can't bring the resources to them. And if something bad happens, if they carry out their intent and they do something, then it's irreversible.
Don't come to school today.
Steffen says half of the threats reported in recent weeks have been handled through restorative justice efforts at school.
To get the kid to understand that when they made that joke, it terrified people. The school closed and it caused people to feel that stress and anxiety and tension. So we get them to understand the harm of their ways, that it's not a joke, that it's very serious.
Mueller from the Office of Education says there's another key safeguard against unnecessarily criminalizing youth. Law enforcement is working hand in hand with school personnel.
Because they know the people they're working with, they're better able to make good decisions about them than an outside team would be. Implicit bias is something we always have to guard against, but focusing on the facts and the fact that it's a multidisciplinary team, it's not a single individual making that decision, all of those things are good safeguards.
Steffen says in the 4 years since fully implementing this protocol, her office has investigated 45 threats. She believes it's stopped 2 planned school shootings. Megan Burks, KPBS News.